Your record reflects the presence of the members of the jury. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Mr. Earls. You understand yourself under oath?
Yes, sir.
All right, and counsel, you may be seated as well as Mr. Capobianco. You may be seated. You may continue with your examination.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Earls.
Good afternoon.
I think what, one of the areas you left off at, you testified that you swabbed the black bra that you recovered on Friday, February 14th of 2014, and you testified that at some point you had placed the swabs within the evidence storage at the Maui Police Department. Remember that?
Yes, I did.
And when you were asked if you could tell us when you did that, you mentioned that it would be on the, I guess, the chain of custody kept within the evidence storage at the Maui Police Department. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're just showing counsel the chain of custody. If I were to show you a copy of the chain of custody that you referred to, would that refresh your recollection as to when you would have placed, I guess, the cotton swabs from the black bra into the storage?
Yes.
Would you get a minute to go through this?
You may.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Rose, if you can just read that to yourself.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And after looking at that, can you tell us when did you, after you swabbed the black bra and I guess processed and handled the cotton swabs for that, but when did you place that into evidence?
Okay. I actually did the swabbing on the 14th, that evening of February, and then I submitted it on the 17th at 9:45 in the morning.
So from February 14th to the 17th, before you submitted it into the storage evidence, where were they being held?
They were being air dried in the evidence processing lab.
And again, is that a secure facility?
Yes, it is.
And did anyone have access to those cotton swabs we're talking about during that time period?
No, they did not.
And then you submitted it directly into the, I guess, the evidence storage within the Maui Police Department?
Correct. A secured locker.
Okay. And did you testify when was the next time you retrieved it to send it out to the Hawaii Police Department or Honolulu Police Department?
It was on the 21st of February.
With the other items you mentioned?
Correct.
Yeah, may I approach you retrieve that?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Rose, are you familiar with the term buccal or buccal swabs?
Yes, I am.
How do you pronounce that?
Either way, depends on where you're from.
Well, let's say you're from Hawaii, how would you pronounce it?
Buccal swabs.
And if you're from the South, where you're from?
Buccal swabs.
Okay, let's think of buccal swabs. What are buccal swabs?
Buccal swabs are the use of clean, sterile cotton tip swabs to collect the cells from the inside of the cheeks.
And did you collect any buccal swab samples from the defendant in this case?
Yes, I did.
And when did you do that?
February 27th, around 7 p.m. of 2014.
And where was that done, Mr. Rose?
That was done at the Wailuku Police Station.
And do you recall who was there other than yourself?
Detective Liu and Mr. Capobianco, of course.
Well, being that you did collect the buccal swab samples from the defendant, if you were to see him again, would you be able to recognize him?
Certainly.
If he's here in this courtroom, could you please point to him and describe an article of his clothing?
Okay. He's the young man sitting there, the dark hair with the light blue aloha shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that Mr. Earl has identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
And can you tell us how you went about recovering buccal swab samples from the defendant back on February 27th, 2014?
Okay. So the first thing, you want to make sure there's no contamination in the mouth of the person you're recovering the sample from. So, and what I mean by contamination possibility is sodas, coffee, anything with sugar, Gatorade, anything with a lot of sugar can cause problems. So I actually, we have the people, in that case Mr. Capobianco, go out into the hallway to the water fountain, take a couple of gulps of water, rinse it around in his mouth like Listerine or some mouthwash, and then make sure that it's nice and clean. Do that at least twice, and then it's when I proceed to take the samples.
And how many buccal swab samples did you take from the defendant?
There are 2 swabs in the individual packet, and you use one for 10 seconds on one cheek and one for 10 seconds on the other cheek.
And is that the entire process right there?
Correct. And then, of course, packaging it carefully, always using gloves, making sure not to contaminate it with your own. We also then place the 2 thumbprints of the person I'm recovering the sample from on the outside of the package, so if there's ever a question as to who those came from, we can look at the fingerprints.
Right. And in this instance, did you place the 2 thumbprints from the defendant on the outside of the packaging?
Yes.
And what did you do with the buccal swab packaging after that?
That was all sealed up in another envelope and then submitted as evidence.
And when you say submitted as evidence, did you submit it into the Maui Police Department storage?
Yes, I did.
Evidence storage?
An evidence locker, yes.
In the same manner you described with the other items?
Yes.
And do you know when you did that?
I do not recall the exact date and time that I dropped it in a lockbox.
Now, what did you, after you submitted the buccal swab samples from the defendant into evidence, did you handle that or did you have contact with that at any other time?
Only when I was requested to send it to Honolulu PD Laboratory for testing, but that was in March, I think March of 2015.
Okay, I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification. As State's Exhibit 324. And Your Honor, Sharing Counsel has been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 324. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay, Mr. Rose, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 324 marked for identification. And if you have a pair of scissors, if you can take a look at that item and remove it from the packaging, please.
Okay.
Now, with respect to those buccal swabs, do you recognize what's in State's Exhibit 324 for identification?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
This is the buccal swab collection kit that I used to sample Mr. Capobianco.
And do you recognize the packaging within the envelope?
Yes, I do.
And what is it that you recognize on the packaging?
It has my handwriting completing the questions about information, identifying the contents, and there's a seal of evidence tape with my initials and the date that I sealed it.
And in looking at that package, does it show whether or not that testing was done on that particular item or on those particular items?
Yes, it does.
And how can you tell that?
There is evidence tape from HPDSIS, the forensic biology unit, with a date handwritten on that as well, with some initials, and that's on the opposite seal of the envelope.
Now, other than the testing that is indicated on State's Exhibit 324 marked for identification, other than that, does that item or do those items look like they have been tampered or altered within any way?
Do not appear so, no.
And are they in substantially the same condition as when you submitted them to the Honolulu Police Department for testing?
Yes, they do.
And you testified earlier that right now you don't recall when you submitted the buccal swabs from the defendant into the Maui Police Department's storage locker, is that correct?
I do not recall that exact. No.
And if you were to see a copy of the computer chain of custody reflecting that, would that refresh your recollection?
Yes, it would.
You know, may I approach that copy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection, Mr. Rose?
Yes, it does.
And when did you, prior to sending the buccal swabs out to the Honolulu Police Department for testing, when did you submit those items into the storage locker at the police department, the Maui Police Department?
This buccal swab collection kit was submitted the next day, February 28, 2014 at 10 in the morning.
And from the time you did the swabs to the time you submitted them, were they in your possession and control?
Yes, they were.
Did anyone have access to them other than yourself during that short time period?
No, sir.
You know, may approach.
You may.
Now, before lunch, Mr. Rose, you testified that you had sent I guess a cooler containing numerous items of evidence to be tested by the Honolulu Police Department's crime lab, is that correct?
Yes.
That was with Detective Jeffrey Mahoney.
Yes, it was.
Now, after Detective Mahoney took those items to the crime lab, did you continue to send additional items to the same crime lab at the Honolulu Police Department?
Yes, I did.
And specifically turning your attention to the items that you received from Officer Bonacorsi, specifically a black pair of jeans, a gray sweater, and a black bra. Do you recall whether or not you had sent those items out?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, can you tell us, with respect to those items, what did you do as far as preparing them for, I guess, to be submitted to the Honolulu Police Department?
Once the laboratory staff let us know that they were ready for the analysis, they requested the evidence. So I received that evidence back from the evidence custodian and brought it to the evidence processing lab, where I then signed it over to within a sealed package for FedEx.
And just to get a little bit more history here, do you have to wait until the crime lab tells you to submit evidence, or do you just go and start submitting evidence?
No, sir. We have to get on the calendar for analysis, and then they will let you know, okay, hey, next week we're going to be ready for your evidence. Please send this, 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 and this. So they select which items to send at which time.
And how do they know, do you provide them a list of the items that the Maui Police Department wishes to be tested?
The investigating detective, the lead detective, provides that with the initial consultation with the scientist, and they discuss what the potential evidence would be, items, which ones, and prioritize which ones should be sent.
I'm actually going to check this, the lack of foundation.
I'll sustain the objection. You made a foundation concerning the procedures that are
Thank you.
typically followed.
Now, you mentioned a discussion between the detective and the, I guess, the scientist at the crime lab, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, are you involved in any of that?
Usually not. No, it's a direct communication.
Well, as far as the list goes, how do you know?
So yeah, I move to strike based on that.
All right, I'll grant the motion to strike, but again, you may lay a foundation, and if so, you can then present.
Understood, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Rosa?
What you're asking about is the standard process.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Right, okay.
So what is the standard procedure or the process that would enable to, you know, for you to know when to send something and what to send?
Okay, so the criminalist who's assigned in the laboratory will contact me via email with a list and say what to send.
Okay. And in this case, with respect to the DNA testing with the Honolulu Police Department, who was a criminalist that you were in contact with respect as to what items to send and when to send them?
Okay, that was criminalist Kashimoto,
And her first name?
Samantha.
Now, referring to the items that we just discussed, the pair of black jeans, the gray sweater, and the black bra, what did you do, if anything, with respect to those items?
Okay, so once I received an email requesting the items be shipped, I requested our evidence custodian to provide them to me, and then I received them from the evidence custodian and prepared them for shipment.
Okay, I'm going to show you what is in evidence at this point as State's Exhibits 289, 293, and 296. You know, may I approach with these items?
Yes.
Okay, now, Mr. Rose, I'm not going to ask you to open them and remove the contents because you've already done that with these items. What I'm going to do is simply ask you to look at the chain of custody records that are attached to each one. So first beginning with State's Exhibit 289, which you've already testified contains the black jeans.
289.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the black jeans, what, if anything, did you do in preparing that for testing for the Honolulu Police Department's crime lab?
As far as preparing it for the shipment?
Right, I mean, did you take swabs of that, or did you just send the jeans?
Yes. No. Actually, once they were completely dry, after I photographed the black jeans, then was when I searched for any type of trace evidence, hairs, fibers, that kind of thing. Did tape lifting procedure that we talked about, kind of like the dust lifter off of your suit, your clothes, or roller. And then I actually sampled with cotton swabs and sterile water a couple of stained areas.
Within the black jeans.
Correct.
Okay. And the stained areas, did you swab anything else other than the stained areas? A couple of stained areas.
On the black jeans, I would have to look at my report. I'm pretty sure I would have also swabbed some non-stained areas as well.
Okay, well, do you need your report to refresh your recollection as to what you did with that?
Yes.
Okay. You know, may I approach with
Yes.
this report? Thank you.
Okay, so I only actually sampled the stained area section on that one, the black jeans.
Okay. So you didn't swab the waist area?
No, I did not.
And what did you do with those samples?
Those were actually, I performed a presumptive test.
And were any of those samples submitted to the Honolulu Crime Lab?
Actually, the entire black jeans were sent in.
Now, looking at State's Exhibit 293, which is an evidence,
293?
that's correct.
Okay.
And what is the item that's contained there?
That's the one listed as a gray sweater. It's the hooded jacket.
And what, if anything, did you do with respect to the gray sweater?
Okay, so again, following the drying process, the item was laid out. You saw the photographs that I took of the gray sweater after it was dry. And then recovered any of the trace evidence, such as hairs and fibers, off of it that were visible with white light. Then searched it with forensic light source, the blue light that you see on used very commonly. And then any stains were also swabbed.
And, you know, permission to publish State's Exhibit 246, which is an evidence.
Granted.
Looking at State's Exhibit 246, which is on the screen there, Ms. Rose, do you see the areas the stained areas that you would have swabbed?
Yes.
And where were they located?
The lower parts of the sleeves, those darkened areas.
Both sleeves?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you do with that?
Those were, may I refer to my report?
Yes.
So may I ask the reference of the page when you find it?
Sure. I'm on page 98 of 440. On the date 3/4 of 2014 at 4:05 p.m. Near the top of the page. Okay, Okay, so that area talks about where the hairs and fibers were removed prior to doing the tape lifts. And then when you go on down about middle of the page, 315, around 10:21 in the morning, that's where the tape lifts were made of the interior and exterior surfaces of the gray hooded jacket. And I haven't located the area where it mentions the swabbing.
Let me ask you this, did you send, you testified earlier that you sent the entire pair of black jeans to the Honolulu crime lab. Did you do the same thing with respect to the gray sweater?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and let's move down to the black bra. Please look at case exhibit 296, which you have up there.
Okay.
Is that the black bra that you had shown us earlier?
Yes, it is.
And as far as the black bra goes, you testified before lunch that you had swabbed certain areas of the black bra and sent the swabs with Detective Mahoney, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Now, in this instance, with the black bra, did you send the entire black bra to the Honolulu Crime Lab for testing?
Yes, I did.
So with respect to the pair of black jeans, the gray sweater with the hood, and the black bra, when were those sent to the Honolulu Crime Lab for testing?
I packaged those on May the 2nd of 2014 and then shipped them out shortly thereafter.
And when did you receive them back?
Can I look at the chain on them?
Yes.
Because it'll be indicated on there. I received them back on November 5 of 2015.
So were all three sent together and all three received together on November 5th, 2015? I think I misspoke. Were all three sent, I guess, back in May of 2014 and then returned to you on November 5th, 2015?
Can I check all three real quick?
Yes.
Yes, they were all three.
So how did you send, can you just briefly describe how you sent all three together to the Honolulu Crime Lab?
So each individual item is packaged in a securely in its own paper bag, and it's all sealed with its chain of custody attached, and then it is placed into the FedEx box and sealed. Again, I signed the chain of custody over to the FedEx box, so that way when the person on the receiving end receives it, they sign that they receive it from the sealed box.
And are all three chain of custodies for each item signed and, I guess, handled in that manner you just described?
Yes, it appeared to be.
And if you can look at all three to make sure.
Yes, they are.
And you already took a look at those. Are they, other than the testing that was indicated, are they in substantially the same condition as when you sent them out?
Yes, they are.
May I approach with case exhibit 286, which is already in the evidence?
Yes.
You know, Mr. Rose, I'm going to show you what has been marked as case exhibit 286.
Okay.
Now, with respect to State's Exhibit 286, did you conduct any testing of those?
286 are the blue jeans. Yes, I did.
And in which areas?
There were some stained areas that I sampled and did some testing on, yes.
And with respect to that pair of blue jeans, what, if anything, did you do with them after you conducted, and I should have used the word presumptive testing on them?
And I also actually took samples, again with sterile cotton swabs and sterile water, of the interior of the waistband near where like the label is, because that area is really actually quite rough around the edges of the label that's sewn in. So I actually took samples of that as well. And then, I'm sorry, your question was?
Let me take care of this first. I'm showing council what has been marked with the identification as State's Exhibits 258 up and through 266, I'm sorry, 267 inclusive. At this time, may I approach Mr. Earls with State's Exhibits 258 through 267 inclusive, marked for identification?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Earls, if you could please take a look at these exhibits now, further questions for you.
Okay.
You recognize all of those photographs in those exhibits?
Yes, I do.
And what are they of?
These are photographs that I took in the evidence processing lab of the same blue jeans we were just discussing.
And why are there so many pictures taken of for this single pair of blue jeans?
These are all showing different views of the physical condition of the jeans.
Are they, the photographs that you see there, do they accurately depict the blue jeans that you photographed on the day you took those pictures at the forensic facility?
Yes, they do.
Have they been changed or altered in any way?
They don't appear to be, no.
At this time, the state would move into the State's Exhibits 258 through 267 inclusive, which have been marked for identification.
Mr. Upco.
No objection.
State's Exhibits 258 through 267 inclusive, so marked for identification purposes, are received in evidence.
And you have permission to publish at this time?
Granted.
And may Mr. Earl step down and approach the
Yes,
monitor?
you may do so.
And Mr. Earl, the pointer is still against the back wall there. The end of State's Exhibit 258, can you tell us what this picture depicts?
Okay, 258 shows an overview photograph of the blue jeans, and again with a scale to the left side of the image and the staining that's on there.
Does Is the scale in inches or,
Thanks. Yes, these are in inches.
and then you said that there's a stain that you noticed on there? Immediately.
Well, in this particular photograph, you can see the stain on the right exterior of the leg,
Okay.
right around near the on the ruler, approximately around the 17, 18, 19 area.
And showing you State's Exhibit 259.
Okay, so this is a closer up view of the same exact jeans in the same location, except now I'm focusing more in that area of the between the knees and the pocket area.
State's Exhibit 260.
So moving on down the jeans, you're seeing the front of the lower legs. Again, the scale on the right, excuse me, on the left, 16 inches down to around 34 inches.
And State's Exhibit 261.
And this is the very bottom of both pant legs and the front view of the pants.
And State's 262.
This is a close-up view of some staining on the front of the right front pocket.
Now, when you testified that you did take, you did some presumptive tests on the stained areas, is that correct?
Yes.
Have we passed any of this or shown any of the stained areas that you have testing on in these?
Yes, you have.
I'm going to go back to State's Exhibit 259. Where did you do any presumptive tests on any
Yes.
area within there?
So in 259, it's the larger area here, again, between around 17 and 19 on the marker, the photo ruler.
And going to State's Exhibit 261, were there any presumptive testing done within any of the areas that you see there?
I would have to see the one right before this, actually, if that's okay.
Okay, showing you State's Exhibit
There we go.
260.
Yeah, so I can see there's the hole here. There's like a worn white hole near on the right knee area. And then right below it, there's a little stain that I tested as well.
And going ahead to State's Exhibit 262, we already shown that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving to 263. What are we looking at?
263 is same pair of jeans, but now they've been flipped over. So you can see the rear portions of the jeans, an overview of the entire, with the ruler again on the side.
And what, if any, stains did you notice depicted in State's Exhibit 263?
Okay, in 263, again, you can see continuation of the stains that are on the right side of the jeans. And then on the left, now you can see on the lower left rear portion of the jeans, you see another red stain.
And when you looked at the jeans itself, when you took these photographs, did they look red to you, the stains?
Yes.
And were any presumptive testing done in any of the areas that's shown in State's Exhibit 263?
In this photograph, it's showing on the left rear portion of the leg there, on the lower. Yes.
Okay. And were any presumptive tests done
Yes.
in this area?
Yes.
What you just referred to?
What I just talked about. Yes, the one right here, right across from like 31 to around 34-inch mark on the left leg.
And showing you State's Exhibit 264.
So again, this is a mid-range view of the rear of the same jeans, now showing the rear pockets, and then you're starting to see in the lower right-hand corner some of that stain on the right leg, but it's on the rear side.
And is, looking at the picture from this vantage point, does the stain that's on the, I guess the side of the right thigh area, does it go around to the front?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 265.
Again, this is a mid-range view of the lower portions of the legs, showing both left and right, but showing the staining on both of those on the rear of those.
And State's Exhibit 266.
266 is a close-up view of that stain on the lower left rear leg portion around the 31 to 34 inch mark.
In the last photograph, State's Exhibit 267.
Okay, 267 is now the blue jeans, I've actually folded them together, so now you can see the entire side, both sides. This one happens to be the right side, showing the staining on the right side there.
And please have a seat. The armchair council has been marked as State's Exhibit 323 for identification. Mayor Bushman.
Yes.
Mr. Rose, I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 323 for identification. I'm going to ask that you open that, and I will ask you further questions after that.
Okay.
Now, do you recognize the items that are in State's Exhibit 323 for identification?
Yes, these
What-
are. I'm sorry.
No, wait, well,
No, these are the cotton swabs, the sterile cotton swabs that I utilize with sterile water to recover samples from those blue jeans.
and how many cotton swabs are there?
There's 5 total.
Now, when you prepared the cotton swabs and submitted them for testing by the Department of Environmental
shipment out to each people.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so yeah, don't open that at this point. When did you submit that proposal?
Okay, so I received them on June 30 of 2015 and submitted them on 7/1 of 15 into the FedEx package.
And so on July 1st, 2015, when you submitted the swabs for the mace container, was it by itself or was it with any other items of evidence?
These were, I believe, submitted with the blue jeans and the swabs from the blue jeans.
And you testified earlier though that you sent them, did you send them out on July 2nd, 2015?
July 1st, 15 is when I put them into the FedEx box.
Okay. And when you say you put them into the FedEx box, what does that mean? Are you sending
That
it
means
out?
I seal it, getting it ready for shipment the next day.
Okay. So yeah, my question